Good morning, folks. The real Captain Kirk here, live from Weather Trend 360 studio here in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I'd like to send a salute out to all my fellow veterans out there. God bless you, folks. Also should keep the folks out in California, bless those folks as well, with the firefighters fighting these massive fires north of San Francisco Bay Area. We'll actually be out there. We've already been warned that our flights might be delayed getting to the San Francisco area, where we're speaking at an Ag 4.0 conference this week. So might see these fires firsthand. Thought we'd real quick just talk about California rainfall over the last 123 years. It's typically after these big wet El Nino years like we had a couple years ago, and that you get some fires after that. So you build all the underbrush underneath these trees and canopies. They dry out in the hot, dry summers, and that's just tinder brush for these big fires to just get pretty ravaged. So again, we got about 40 million people out there, so God bless you folks, anyone in harm's way. Looking here at snow cover here this morning, we have about 29.5% of the U.S. covered in snow. Normal would be about 12.8%. So we're well above average here for snow cover across the U.S. In fact, October North American snowfall to date is the second most in 51 years. So as we've said many, many times here, if you're not ready for the coldest, snowiest winter in 5 years, now would be a really good time to get ready. Looking at the snowfall actually this season, this is a NOAA product, shows everywhere that's had snow. So we've actually had quite a bit of snow in the Rockies and the Midwest. Unusual probably to see this much snow this early in the season. New England's starting to add to their snowpack here, and we'll actually be adding more here this week. Looking at the current radar this morning, we can see the storm coming out of Texas into Oklahoma with snow, into Kansas and the Missouri area, heading into Illinois. This system will actually watch it track into the interior Great Lakes Northeast here this week. So again, this is snowfall here today, animating the next 6 days. We can see the heavier snow moving into interior New England, away from the big cities. Another system here next week across the upper plains into New England. We'll track through these one more time. So today's system, again, over the next 6 days, this is accumulated snowfall. The other thing we have to concern ourselves with now, even though it's still acting like winter in the U.S., is the hurricane season is not over. It's got a couple more weeks here. It ends in November, but we very likely going to get Tropical Storm Patty, which would be the 16th named system of the season. So again, a very active season to say the least. This system is probably going to head as close to Turks and Caicos and then veer right toward Bermuda. Probably remains a weak tropical storm, so nothing too major to contend with here. Looking ahead here at the this week here, we see that obviously very, very cold in the eastern 2/3 of the country. Hottest weather is obviously out in California, the Pacific Northwest. Two systems here to contend with this week, early and late week, along the East Coast. So North Carolina, where they don't want any more rain, 4 or 5 inches of rain. Going to be adding to these record totals in the East. Many cities now have actually had are on pace for their wettest year on record along the East Coast. Looking at jump ahead here to next week, we see the cold diminishes a bit, remains pretty much in the northeast, eastern half of the U.S. Very heavy rain in Texas, and Lord willing, here we get some rain in California. Looks like there's some promise, at least, to help put out these Northern California fires. So let's hope next week that that tends to be the case. Looking at the world overall here for the 2 weeks as a whole, so this is the next 2 weeks as an aggregate. Again, colder in the eastern half of the U.S. and eastern Canada. Very cold up in northern Canada. Europe is still cooled off a bit, but still seasonably warm, a little bit above average. Eastern Europe's a bit colder. Across Africa, obviously pretty hot. Australia's pretty cool, and eastern China, where most folks live, is pretty warm as well. Looking at precip trends here across the world, we see very wet across the south and east. Again, typical kind of central El Nino signature here, already taking shape. Dry in the northern Rockies and plains overall. Europe, actually, other than Spain, is actually quite dry as well. Had an interesting, again, you know it's fall here in the east when you see these starlings. I'll show a video here. I'll let you listen to the video here first, and then we'll talk about it. So they tend to flock in the trees here, and then this is called a Starling Murmuration, I guess. It's just amazing how they don't collide into each other. So again, neat to see that as we have middle fall here in eastern Pennsylvania. With that, folks, we hope you have a great week. We'll be here this time next week.